Assessing reading. Most formal tests use the written word as a stimulus for the test taker response. Reading, arguably, is the most essential skill for success in all educational contexts. And for learners of English, two primary obstacles must be cleared in order to become efficient readers. They need to be able to master bottom-up strategies for processing separate letters, words, and phrases, and as well as top-down processing, that is the strategies where second language readers must develop appropriate content and formal schemata to carry out those interpretations effectively. Now we have the first theme, that is the types or genres of reading. First we have the academic reading, for example, a general interest article in magazines, newspapers, etc. The technical reports, for example, lab reports, and professional journal articles. Reference material, for example, dictionaries, textbooks, theses, essays, papers, test directions, editorials, and opinion writing. Now we have job-related reading. Messages, for example, phone messages, letters, emails, memos, reports, schedules, labels, signs, announcements, forms, applications, questionnaires, financial documents, directories, manuals, directions. Now we have personal reading. For example, newspapers and magazines, letters, emails, greeting cards, messages, notes, lists, schedules, recipes, menus, maps, calendars, advertisements, novels, short stories, jokes, drama, poetry, financial documents, forms, questionnaires, medical reports, immigration documents, comic strips, and cartoons. Now we have the micro skills, macro skills, and strategies for reading. The micro skills are: first, discriminate among the distinctive graphemes and orthographic patterns of English. 2. Retain chunks of language of different lengths in shorthand memory. 3. Process writing at an efficient rate of speech to suit the purpose. 4. Recognize a core of words and interpret word order patterns and their significance. 5. Recognize grammatical word classes, for example, nouns, verbs, etc. Systems, tense, agreement, pluralization, and patterns, rules, and elliptical forms. 6. Recognize that a particular meaning may be expressed in different grammatical forms. And 7. Recognize cohesive devices in written discourse and their role in signaling the relationship between and among clauses. Now the macro skills, the rhetorical forms of written discourse and their significance for interpretation. Recognize the communicative functions of written text according to form and purpose. Infer context that is not explicit by using background knowledge. Infer links and connections between described events. Deduce causes and effects and detect such relations as main idea, supporting idea, new information, given information. Distinguish between literal and implied meanings. Detect culturally specific references and interpret them in the context of the appropriate cultural schemata. Develop and use reading strategies such as scanning and skimming, detecting discrete markers, guessing the meaning of words from context, and activating schemata for the interpretation of text. Now, strategies for reading comprehension. The first one, identify your purpose in reading a text. 2. Apply spelling clues and conventions for bottom-up decoding. 3. Use lexical analysis to determine meaning, for example, prefixes, roots, suffixes, etc. Guess at meaning when you aren't certain of words, idioms, etc. 5. Skim the text for the gist and for main ideas. 6. Scan the text for specific information, names, dates, keywords. 7. Use silent reading techniques for rapid processing. 8. Use marginal notes, outlines, charts, or semantic maps for understanding and retaining information. 9. Distinguish between literal and implied meanings. 10. Capitalize on discord markers to process relationships. Now we have the types of reading. First, we have perceptive. Perceptive reading tasks involve attending to the components of larger stretches of discourse, letters, words, punctuation, and other graphemic symbols. Bottom-up processing is implied. Now we have selective reading. Selective reading is largely an artifact of assessment formats, and in order to ascertain one, reading recognition of lexical, grammatical, or discourse features of language, certain typical tasks are used. Picture cued task, matching, true false, multiple choice, etc. A combination of bottom-up and top-down processing may be used. 3 is the interactive reading. The focus is to identify relevant features, lexical, symbolic, grammatical, and discourse within text of moderately short length with the objective of retaining information that is processed. Top-down is typically of such tasks, although bottom-up performance may be necessary. 4 is the extensive reading. The purposes of assessment usually are to tap into a learner's global understanding of text as opposed to asking test takers to zoom in on small details. Top-down processing is assumed for most extensive tasks. Now we have a figure that shows the relationships of length, focus, and processing mode among the 4 types of reading. Designing assessment tasks. Perceptive reading. First, we have reading aloud. The test takers see separate letters, words, and or short sentences and read them aloud, one by one, in the presence of an administrator. Since the assessment is a reading comprehension, any recognizable oral approximation of the target response is considered correct. Then we have written response. The same stimuli are presented, and the test taker's task is to reproduce the probe in writing. Because of the transfer across different skills here, evaluation of the test taker's response must be carefully treated. If an error occurs, make sure you determine its source. What might be assumed to be a writing error, for example, may actually be a reading error, and vice versa. Then we have the multiple choice. Some formats are especially useful at the low levels of reading, include same different, circle the answer, true false, choose the letter, and matching. Then we have picture cued items. Test takers are shown a picture, such as the one on here, along with a written text, and are given one of a number of possible tasks to perform. With the same picture, the test taker might read sentences and then point to the correct part of the picture. It could be a true-false procedure with the same picture cue. Matching can be an effective method of assessing reading at this level. With objects labeled A, B, C, D, E in the picture, the test taker reads words and writes the appropriate letter beside the word. Finally, test takers might see a word or phrase and then be directed to choose one of 4 pictures that is being described, thus requiring the test taker to transfer from a verbal to a non-verbal mode.